You're looking at a live picture on Tara Glen Drive. This is in Clayton County, where we have been following for some time this morning a SWAT standoff in Clayton County. Now, we just got some breaking news updates that I want to share with you. There is an emergency shelter in place for all the neighbors and surrounding citizens in this area. This is Tara Glen Drive at McDonough Road in Hampton. Now, as Clayton County Police and law enforcement respond, they have let us know that the suspect in this standoff is on foot. The suspect is considered armed and dangerous, prompting that emergency shelter in place. Now, we will be connecting here in a moment with our reporter, Bridget Spencer, who is at the scene. She's been there all morning, and we're going to hear the latest from her here momentarily. All right, Bridget, can you hear me?
I can.
Alrighty, we have you live right now. We are covering this breaking news, and we just got word here at the station that the suspect is on foot, considered armed and dangerous. I know you've been out there all morning. What can you tell us?
Yeah, this has been going on since 11 o'clock last night. I'm going to show you just what it's looking like. We had the Clayton County Bomb Squad come in here just about 2 or so hours ago. And if you look down Tara Glen Boulevard, that is where police have been set up all night, just kind of trying to get this person to come out of the house. And now we have just learned that that suspect that they are worried about is on foot and armed and dangerous. So there has been a shelter in place issued for people who live out here. Now, just to recap, this all started last night. Neighbors have been sitting in their cars in the freezing cold, unable to get back in the house. So this has been quite a nightmare for a lot of people. And now this is still an ongoing situation at this point.
And Bridget, I know that this is something you've been covering on Atlanta News First. We are on right now there. What can you tell us? Have you had a chance to speak with some of these neighbors as they're just waiting for those updates?
Yeah, I did. In fact, about 30 minutes ago, we spoke to a woman. She is actually posted over here, and she's still in her car. She slept in her car all night. She hasn't been able to go to work because she says she's sleep deprived. She's trying to get back to the house, at least change clothes. It's been a nightmare for a lot of people. And one woman who was out here about 2 o'clock in the morning, she said she was told to leave her home. So it's been a nightmare for quite a few people.
And I know with these situations, it's a very tense moment for law enforcement especially. Have they been able to provide you any updates from being on the ground there with them?
Yeah, so we've been talking to a few officers. They haven't been giving a lot of information, but we have spoken over the phone with Clayton County Police Department officials, and they said this did begin as a welfare check last night. They were worried about a person being suicidal, and that's what escalated, but we don't know exactly how it escalated to this point and why the bomb squad was called in, so we're still working to get those details while we're out here.
All right, Bridget, we'll touch back with you if there are any updates. I really appreciate your time. Alrighty, so let's recap. I know some of you have jumped in about halfway into our live stream here, so I want to make sure that we get you the latest information. So this is happening along Tara Glen Drive at McDonough Road in Hampton. Now, this is in Clayton County, where SWAT, as well as other law enforcement, Clayton County law enforcement are responding. Now, they have told us that the suspect in this standoff is still out there. He's still on foot somewhere. They are currently trying to track that person down right now. All of the neighboring residents, all of the people in that area have been told to shelter in place. And as you heard from Bridget, our reporter who is on scene just there, some of those people were sleeping in their car all night. That is how long this standoff has been going on, since about 11 p.m. And it all started as a welfare check. As Bridget explained, that is what Clayton County law enforcement were responding to, and things escalated from there to the point that now those neighbors are under that emergency shelter in place. We do want to stay on here with you and provide you those updates as we learn anything, including when that suspect is expected to be found and brought in by law enforcement. Right now, still very dangerous situation. So if you are a neighbor of that area, if you are in that area or know a loved one who might be, make sure you let them know that we are providing these updates here live, and we will be touching base with Clayton County officials to get you the latest information on what we know and whether there are any updates in this active and ongoing investigation. we will be touching base with Bridget here again at 9:30 with any updates that we may have regarding this. But the latest information I can tell you right now is this is a very active and ongoing situation here in Clayton County. The suspect, according to officials, is still out there, still on foot. Now, what we are waiting to hear is when that emergency shelter in place can be lifted. Right now, it has not been, and it might not be for some time. And you heard from Bridget just 5 minutes ago, if you were with us, those people, those residents in this area, neighbors, people just passing through when this all went down, they had to stay in their vehicles and stay in place. And some of them are still there in their cars. We heard one woman had to sleep in her car that night due to this ongoing investigation. But of course, safety is always the top priority. So Clayton County officials have kept that emergency shelter in place going while this suspect is out there. This suspect they have described as armed and dangerous. So while this is an active and very ongoing situation, if you are in this area, we ask that you avoid it as best as possible. You do not want to get stuck in this. Now, it's worth mentioning we are bringing you this continued coverage right now on Atlanta News First. During the morning show, we are having updates continuously coming in from our reporter Bridget Spencer, who is also providing updates for our on-air coverage. We are going to be hearing from her here momentarily with any updates that we may have. Right now, what we can tell you is this is a very active and ongoing situation. That shelter in place that I'd mentioned just moments ago, that is still there. You want to avoid this area. If this is a place that you pass through or know someone who is nearby, you want to make sure that you find some alternate routes.
Suspect that they've been trying to get to come out all this time is armed and dangerous and on foot. I'm going to show you what it's looking like over here. This is the Clayton County Bomb Squad vehicle. They have been out here since about 7 o'clock this morning. They deployed some sort of robot earlier that we saw. We weren't sure if that was used to go inside of the home, but this is Terra Glen Boulevard. this is what it's looking like. Police won't let us get much beyond this point, but just to recap, this all started at about 11 o'clock last night, and it's been going on for hours and hours. SWAT teams from both Clayton County Police Department as well as the Clayton County Sheriff's Office have been both working on this all night. And it's, of course, also been a tough morning for neighbors who live around here. Some were told to leave their homes early this morning. We spoke to a woman who had to sleep in her car. She couldn't even get home. So a lot of people are really just frustrated that we're hearing from. And now that we've learned that the suspect is armed and dangerous and running, apparently on foot. So they're trying to keep everybody safe at this point. This is still a very fluid situation. Of course, we're going to be checking in with police and bringing you the latest as we get it. For now, we're live in Hampton. Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
All right, and we are working on getting that live visual back for you. We're connecting with our reporter Bridget right now to get that back up for you, and we'll take you back out to Clayton County, where I want to emphasize this is a very active and ongoing situation, a serious one. We did hear from Clayton County officials that the suspect in this standoff is still out there. They are trying to bring that person in, but they have told us that, to emphasize that this suspect is considered armed and dangerous. This is not someone that you want to approach, or what you want to do is call 911, call Clayton County officials. They will respond to that individual. Right now, there is an emergency shelter in place ongoing in Clayton County on on Tara Glen Drive in on McDonough Road in Hampton. So if you know anybody that is in this area passing through, this is a residential neighborhood, you do want to let them know there is an emergency shelter in place at this very moment. That is not expected to be lifted, at least until the suspect is in police custody. Now, Clayton County SWAT, Clayton County police, and other members of law enforcement all responding to the scene, all still very much at this location investigating. This is something that's been going on since 11 o'clock last night, and we had our evening and night crews bringing you this coverage, as well as our morning team since about 4:30 this morning. So we are going to continue to follow this right here where you're watching, and we are going to provide you those updates as soon as we hear anything. We do have our reporter, Bridget Spencer. She's out there. We're going to be connecting with her. But in the meantime, again, you want to avoid this area as best as you can. If you are already in this area, as we heard, one woman had to sleep in her car because of the shelter in place that was going on as she was driving through. That is going to be a reality for you if you are approaching this neighborhood. You want to avoid it as best as possible. Let investigators continue to do their job and bring this person in. Now, a few of you just mentioned you were having trouble hearing me. I just fixed the audio, I believe. You let me know in the comments. I am checking those, trying to answer your questions as best as possible. I'll recap a little of what was just said. So we are working on connecting with our reporter, Bridget, who I believe just was able to get us a visual back of this active standoff. You can see Clayton County's bomb squad on scene. That vehicle, that is the bomb squad car, responding to this standoff. Now, the latest on what we know, this is still a very much an active and ongoing situation. There is an emergency shelter in place in this neighborhood on Tara Glen Drive in Clayton County. Now, if you are someone who passes through here or knows someone who's living in this area, chances are they are already aware there is an emergency shelter in place, but make sure you connect with them, check up on them, and definitely don't pass through this area because this is not a situation you want to get stuck in. We heard from our reporter, Bridget, who let us know that a woman ended up sleeping in her car because of this shelter in place, because she wasn't able to pass through this area. So that will be your reality if you are trying to get close to this. The best thing you can do right now, as this is a very active and ongoing situation, is seek those alternate routes. This is a residential area, so we don't expect a heavy amount of traffic to be coming through, but those residents that do live there are being instructed to remain in their home or remain inside as the suspect is still out there. They are searching for this individual, and we can expect that shelter in place to remain until that person has been apprehended. Now, for the time being, what we can tell you is this all started at 11 o'clock last night as a welfare check. Things escalated from there, leading to this standoff where Clayton County Police, other members of Clayton County law enforcement were called to assist. We know that SWAT responded as well, leading to this standoff and now a pursuit of this person who is very much armed and dangerous. That was the words that were being told to us by Clayton County officials, and still out in the community. So as they are working to bring this person in, keep in mind there is an emergency shelter in place if you are in the area of Tara Glen Drive in Clayton County. I have a few of you still asking about where this is located. So I pulled up this map. I wanted to show you a better look of the area. This is a residential neighborhood. You can see the main road, McDonough Road. This is near where SWAT and Clayton County law enforcement are responding. So you can see not a lot of businesses, but definitely a lot of homes in the area, prompting that emergency shelter in place while Clayton County officials do look for the suspect. Here you can see that pinpoint isn't exactly where it happened. It happened more inward towards Tara Glen Road. Now, I apologize, Tara Glen Drive. Now, I did want to just show you here the area that we are talking about. So you see the main road, McDonough Road, and then Tara Glen Drive, where Clayton County officials, other members of law enforcement who have assisted in this investigation are responding. This is where our reporter, Bridget Spencer, is. This is her live picture that she's bringing us closer of the visual. You can see the Clayton County bomb squad on scene, the car, the bomb squad vehicles, very much in the visual that we're bringing you. But as far as the location goes, that is where this area is happening. And I can zoom out here just a little and you can see more of where this is. So down south of Jonesboro, closer to Lovejoy, but this is the neighborhood specifically in Clayton County. See if I can find that again. McDonough Road and Tara Glen Drive, showing you this visual here and the homes surrounding this area. At any time when there is a SWAT standoff like this, the top priority is safety and bringing an individual, which Clayton County officials have described as armed and dangerous, bringing that person in and away from this community. So that is what we're waiting to hear updates from law enforcement officials about where they are in this investigation and whether they have located the individual, a suspect in question. I do believe our shot may have just froze up. We're going to work on getting that back for you. In the meantime, I'm going to leave this map up here so you can see this residential area, trying to get that visual back for you. But this is exactly where this standoff is taking place. A closer look for you of Tara Glen Drive and McDonough Road. This is where we are bringing you continuing coverage of this standoff that has been going on since 11 o'clock last night. It all began as a welfare check, and now what Clayton County officials have told us is they're actively looking for the suspect. They have described the suspect as armed and dangerous and issued an emergency shelter in place for those residents. You can see the amount of residential space here and the amount of people that live in this community. All of those individuals who are there have been told, remain in your home or remain away from the scene of this investigation until they deem it safe to lift that shelter in place. Now I am going through your comments right now, trying to get you guys any updates that we might have. Right now, still, like I said, with these standoff situations, this is very much a sensitive situation, an active and possibly dangerous one. We did hear from Clayton County officials that the suspect that they are now searching for is considered armed and dangerous, prompting that shelter in place a top priority for them is safety right now, and especially for those residents that are in this area. Now, I did see a comment, someone saying their family member lives in this area. Make sure you let them know. I'm sure they already have been following the guidance of local law enforcement that are in the area to shelter in place, to remain inside and away from the scene. Right now, that is the best thing that person can possibly do. Of course, we are going to continue to monitor and bring you these updates, and that's part of why we do this live, is for the people that do have family members or are possibly a resident of this area or want to know more about what's going on in this community. We are bringing you updates as soon as we hear them. We bring you them right here where you're watching. So what I am going to tell you is the latest thing. What we heard from Clayton County officials is that there's a shelter in place for the neighborhood of Tara Glen Drive and McDonough Road, as well as neighboring areas. They do want everybody to remain inside, remain where they are, and not to be walking around while they are searching for this suspect. Now, that suspect has been described as armed and dangerous. This is a standoff that has been going on since 11 o'clock when Clayton County officials were called to this residential area for a welfare check. It has since escalated. I mean, we're talking, it is 10 o'clock, almost 12 hours later. Coming up on this Monday morning, where we are now bringing you live updates, an active shelter in place, an active search for a suspect that is considered armed and dangerous. Now we are on, hopefully I didn't hurt your eardrums just there as I brought the sound back. We are on Facebook and YouTube right now. We are also on our OTT streaming channels. That's our digital desk where we stream out to Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. With this coverage, we are going to continue to follow this while this remains an active investigation. Our reporter Bridget Spencer on the scene bringing us those updates, but I thought I would take a moment to interact with some of you in our comments, a lot of you having questions. I know Carlos Bennett just said he can't believe a crime is happening in what seems to be a low crime neighborhood where nothing like this usually takes place. And that's part of why there is a shelter in place. From what we've been told by Clayton County officials, they want to make sure that safety is the top priority. And you're talking about a suspect that is now possibly still on foot, has not been apprehended according to what we last have heard from those officials. So very much an active investigation, prompting the need to have those residents shelter in place, make sure that nobody is walking around and possibly in a place where they can put themselves in a dangerous situation, letting those investigators, letting law enforcement respond and apprehend this individual so that they can then lift the shelter in place. That's the current plan, at least from what we've been told. Now, that none of that has happened yet. Right now, now, what we do know is that there is a shelter in place for the residents, specifically of Tara Glen Drive and McDonough Road, as well as those surrounding neighborhoods. Here's that map again, showing you just how much residential space is in this specific area. So a lot of people who were at home last night, still inside. We heard from Bridget Spencer, who is our reporter at the scene. She let us know that a woman was actually driving through here when this all took place, when that shelter in place was issued. She had to sleep in her car because she wasn't able to pass through here. Of course, we also spoke with some other residents, a lot of them just waiting to hear from officials any updates about when it's safe to move around and resume their day. Right now, this is an active scene, one that several law enforcement members have responded to. We saw SWAT, we saw the bomb squad, as well as Clayton County Police and other members of law enforcement on scene responding to this area specifically. Now, we are going to work on touching back with our reporter, Bridget Spencer, see if we can get any updates for you. In the meantime, continue to ask your questions, comment your thoughts. I am checking that and responding back as much as I can. But what I'm going to do right now is check in with our reporter, Bridget, see if we have any updates as far as this active scene goes. Now, I do believe we are going to connect with our reporter, Bridget Spencer, once again, bring you those updates. I believe we are also trying to talk to that resident that we mentioned earlier who is still waiting to leave her vehicle. Right now, she is still parked in her vehicle under this shelter in place. She was originally passing through the area, obviously, with the active scene that we are in right now, unable to do that. So we are going to try to see if we can talk to her, get a little bit of her perspective and how long she's been out there, and just bring you more of this story while we are waiting for those updates from Clayton County officials. Now, I just checked in with our team here at Atlanta News First, see if we can get you any updates. This is still an ongoing situation. What I have been told, that shelter in place still in effect right now. And I know a lot of people recently commented that they just joined this live stream. So I'm going to just walk you through everything we know from 11 o'clock when this all started now to 10:05 a.m. the following day. Now, this began Sunday night around 11 o'clock as a welfare check in this neighborhood along Tarraglin Drive at McDonough Road in Hampton. This is in Clayton County. Now, since then, the situation has clearly escalated. What we do know and we can tell you is that Clayton County officials have told us this individual, this suspect that they are, that did prompt this standoff, that person is very much out there in the community and on foot. They have labeled this person as armed and dangerous, and someone that if you see them in public or you suspect suspicious activity, you want to call police. You do not want to approach this individual. For the residents in this neighborhood specifically and the surrounding community, you can see from this map I've been showing throughout our live stream together, a very heavily residential neighborhood. There has been a shelter in place issued for this area. A lot of those vehicles that might be on McDonough Road passing through into Tarraglin Drive, not getting through past this site where the investigation is ongoing. Those residents that possibly were in their homes last night still very much likely in their homes as a result of this shelter in place. Now, as this investigation remains ongoing, what we are working to find out through our communication with local law enforcement, through Clayton County officials, is when that shelter in place has been lifted. I know two of you commented that you have family and loved ones in this area. We want to make sure we get you those updates. But the main thing I also wanted to mention, if you are passing through here or this is an area that you traverse through, make sure you are taking some alternate routes. You do not want to pass through this area right now. You will be under that shelter in place if you do.
News right now at 9:30. We just got new information on that standoff in Clayton County that's been going on all night long.
Let's get it right out to Atlanta News First's Bridget Spencer with what she's learned. Bridget, you're live on the scene. What are you learning?
Yeah, well, shelter in place has just been issued. They're saying the suspect that they've been trying to get to come out all this time is armed and dangerous and on foot. I'm going to show you what it's looking like over here. This is the Clayton County Bomb Squad vehicle. They have been out here since about 7 o'clock this morning. They deployed some sort of robot earlier that we saw. We weren't sure if that was used to go inside of the home, but this is Terra Glen Boulevard. This is what it's looking like. The police won't let us get much beyond this point, but just to recap, this all started at about 11 o'clock last night, and it's been going on for hours and hours. SWAT teams from both Clayton County Police Department as well as the Clayton County Sheriff's Office have been both working on this all night. And it's, of course, also been a tough morning for neighbors who live around here. Some were told to leave their homes early this morning. We spoke to a woman who had to sleep in her car. She couldn't even get home. So a lot of people are really just frustrated that we're hearing from. And now that we've learned that the suspect is armed and dangerous and running, apparently on foot. So they're trying to keep everybody safe at this point. This is still a very fluid situation. Of course, we're going to be checking in with police and bringing you the latest as we get it. For now, we're live in Hampton. Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
And those updates directly from our reporter, Bridget Spencer. We actually were able to connect with you while I was showing you that earlier coverage from about 30 minutes ago on Atlanta News First. We are going to be speaking with a resident here, I believe, right now. Let's tune in.
Ask a couple questions here.
Okay.
First, just give me your first and last name.
Queenie Russell. Russell.
Okay, Queenie, kind of tell us how your day or night's been going. You've been seeing this kind of unfold a little bit.
Well, yeah, actually, I think around 9:30 or so last night is when I noticed, the police and all the lights and stuff. So I actually know a lady that lives up the streets. So I called her and asked her what was going on, and she wasn't real sure at the time. So we just really didn't know what was taking place.
Right. Had you ever seen anything like this happen in your neighborhood?
No, not too often. We've had some little incidents, but nothing of this magnitude.
How long have you been living here?
Almost 20 years.
Right. How do you like it so far?
I love it.
So far, so good.
So
right?
far, so good.
Long
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
So right now there's a shelter in place. They're telling people to not go anywhere, just to be on the lookout. There's a suspect on foot. What's kind of your feeling right now when you heard that news?
Well, I just hope they catch him. I hope he doesn't hurt himself or anyone else, or anyone, period. So it's kind of scary to know that, he is, in the neighborhood or in the area, wherever, whatever. So, yeah.
Do you might know who the person who lives there? Do you might know who they're talking about, or no knowledge of that person?
No knowledge. Maybe I've seen him before, but just by name, I'm not sure who he is. Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with us?
No, I just hope it warms up a little bit. It's cold.
It is really cold.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you're all right.
Yeah. Thank you. You too. Y'all take care.
That was just one of the residents in this community along Tara Glen Drive on McDonough Road. Now, this is in Clayton County, a person we spoke to who has been impacted by this ongoing standoff situation. That is our Bridget Spencer, who just brought you that from the ground. She's been there all morning long, but this standoff has been going on since before we brought you this coverage this morning. It actually started late last night, around 11 o'clock. That's when we first reported this to you as Clayton County officials were responding to a welfare check in the area. Things escalated from there, and now as we approach 11 o'clock, 12 hours into this active investigation, they have issued a shelter in place as they search for this individual, this suspect that they say is armed and dangerous. What we are working to connect with local law enforcement over is when that shelter in place has been lifted. A couple of you indicated that you have family in the area, loved ones, so we want to make sure we get that information out to you as soon as we learn it. We are going to try to reconnect with our reporter, Bridget, see if we have heard any of those updates from local law enforcement. Right now, what we've been told time and time again is that that shelter in place will remain until it is deemed safe to lift it. And part of that safety measure is bringing the suspect into custody. That hasn't happened to our knowledge at this time. Now, I was able to get a visual, a picture of that suspect directly from Clayton County officials. I want to show that to you off of my desktop monitor right now. Here is the person that Clayton County officials are currently searching for. Again, they have emphasized this individual is considered armed and dangerous. If you see this man, do not approach him. What you want to do is call Clayton County, call 911, and let them know where exactly you saw this person, and then let those investigators, law enforcement, handle the rest. You want to make sure to abide by the shelter in place. If you're a resident, do not leave your home at this time. Remain in place until investigators deem that it is safe to lift that shelter in place order. I did get more information just now from Clayton County Police on this individual. I'm going to read the latest on what we have. Our first update, I know a lot of you have been with me throughout this live stream. I do appreciate your patience. We can only learn as much as investigators tell us. So we do have some updates. Now, this individual, his name is Jeremiah Rose. He is 41 years old. That is the person that local law enforcement are searching for. Now, an emergency shelter in place was issued for the area while the suspect was on foot. That shelter in place remains, as they have not apprehended this person at this moment. They did update us that the shelter in place still ongoing. This person still considered armed and dangerous. You're talking about a standoff that's been going on for almost 12 hours since 11 o'clock last night, 10:21 right now. Now, Clayton County Police actually first responded to this area along the 1100th block of Tara Glen Drive in Hampton. They said that it all began as a welfare check. They actually responded at around 4 o'clock, and then things escalated from there into where we are right now with this standoff. SWAT responding to the scene, a bomb squad that you can see from this live visual still on the premises as the investigation continues. But this individual, 41-year-old Jeremiah Rose, I'm going to bring up his picture again. He is wanted on a warrant for failure to appear for aggravated assault with a weapon, 3 counts of those out of Louisiana. I'm going to backtrack a little bit as you continue to look at this picture here. I'm going to bring back that live visual. So this is the person that they are looking for, Jeremiah Rose. He's 41 years old. We were told Clayton County Police were responding for a welfare check. What they believed was an individual, Rose, who Clayton County have confirmed they were responding to, Rose experiencing a possible mental crisis. That is how this all began. It then led into a standoff once those officers learned that he had several guns and a long gun inside the residence. After several attempts, according to police, to get him to come out of his residence, that is when that standoff was officially confirmed, and then things escalated from there. Now we are in an emergency shelter in place for the community. We have since learned that Rose is out in public on foot right now. They are working to bring him in. He is considered armed and dangerous. If you're going to take anything away from this, as we are continuing to live stream and bring information out to you on this person here, what I want you to keep in mind is that we have been told by Clayton County Police this is a person who is considered armed and dangerous, as well as the emergency shelter in place that they want residents and community members to abide by. If you are not in this area, this is not an area you're going to want to get close to at this time. You're going to want to pursue some alternate routes, especially if you're passing through McDonough Road. Make sure you let investigators do their job right now. You don't want to be caught up in this shelter in place, and you certainly want to be able to remove yourself from any possible danger as this situation, as this active investigation continues. So I have that visual for you up there showing you the area that we have been talking about for about an hour now, Tara Glen Drive and McDonough Road. You want to avoid this area as best as possible. Definitely for those of you who have told me that you are following along as you have loved ones in the area, let them know this shelter in place is still active and ongoing.
News right now at 9:30. We just got new information on that standoff in Clayton County that's been going on all night long.
Let's get it right out to Atlanta News First's Bridget Spencer with what she's learned. Bridget, you're live on the scene. What are you learning?
Yeah, well, shelter in place has just been issued. They're saying the suspect that they've been trying to get to come out all this time is armed and dangerous and on foot. I'm going to show you what it's looking like over here. This is the Clayton County Bomb Squad vehicle. They have been out here since about 7 o'clock this morning. They deployed some sort of robot earlier that we saw. We weren't sure if that was used to go inside of the home, but this is Tara Glen Boulevard. This is what it's looking like. Police won't let us get much beyond this point, but just to recap, this all started at about 11 o'clock last night, and it's been going on for hours and hours. SWAT teams from both Clayton County Police Department as well as the Clayton County Sheriff's Office have been both working on this all night. And it's, of course, also been a tough morning for neighbors who live around here. Some were told to leave their homes early this morning. We spoke to a woman who had to sleep in her car. She couldn't even get home. So a lot of people are really just frustrated that we're hearing from. And now that we've learned that the suspect is armed and dangerous and running, apparently on foot. So they're trying to keep everybody safe at this point. This is still a very fluid situation. Of course, we're going to be checking in with police and bringing you the latest as we get it. For now, we're live in Hampton. Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
Now, I know you can see a couple of vehicles moving through. A lot of you are asking if that means or indicates if there's any sort of update. I am working with a reporter, Bridget, to confirm some information. We will have that for you momentarily. And I was just able to get those updates in for you. For those of you just joining us, we have learned that shots have been fired in this neighborhood. We are working to learn the specifics of what that means, as we just received from local law enforcement. That is what I'm connecting with our reporter Bridget on, bringing you those latest details. But right now, the latest update regarding this standoff that we've been covering since we first brought it to you last night is that shots have been fired in the vicinity of Tarraglin Drive and McDonough Road. We are going to check in with Bridget, see if we can get you details surrounding that update, what exactly that means for this active investigation and for the residents in this area. We are going to be bringing you that here momentarily. I'm going to touch base with Bridget here and get you those updates as quickly as we can learn them from officials. Those updates to you, a little more detail while we work to connect with Bridget. Shots have been fired in this area that we have been covering for you for some time now. That shelter in place, more important than ever before. We have learned from Clayton County officials to let residents know to shelter in place. Make sure that you are sheltering in place if you are in this community. Now, we have since learned that gunfire was heard in the areas of Walden Landing apartment and Madison Heights apartment, and possibly the Home Depot in Lovejoy. Now, we are working to confirm exactly the details surrounding that gunfire that was heard. That's what we're trying to get updates for you as we work closely with Clayton County officials and investigators who are responding to this active scene. We are going to still work to connect with Bridget, who is on the ground and can possibly give us some more context to this situation, but definitely a development that we want to bring to you if you are tuning in. I want you to hang tight with me here while I work to bring you the details of everything that we know. We'll run through everything once again, bringing you up to speed on the latest of what we know and where this investigation is right at this moment. All right, so I was able to connect with our reporter, Bridget. She is going to be joining us here momentarily. I'm going to, at this time, pull up a map for you. I know I've named 3 different locations where that gunfire was heard from. I want to show you just how close each place is to each other, give you some better context of the vicinity that we're talking about with this latest development. So I'm going to take a moment and pull up that map for you. We'll go through all of the details together while we wait to connect here with our reporter, Bridget, who will be joining us here momentarily as well. So there's that map for you. I'm going to bring down my graphics here so you can see a little better. That point, that is near the area of Tara Glen Drive and McDonough Road. Now, you can see if you go further to your right, the Home Depot there, I've outlined with my mouse, as well as the Walden Landing Apartments, and if you look a little closer, the Madison Heights Apartments. That is where gunfire was heard from. Now, we do believe at this time, from talking with officials, from connecting with a reporter on the ground, that this is connected to the active standoff investigation that remains ongoing, to the shelter in place that those community residents are under. So from this point where the standoff began, all the way towards your right to where this Home Depot, Walden Landing, apartment homes, and Madison Heights apartments are, that is where we have been told that possible gunfire and shots were confirmed to be fired from. Now, we are going to be speaking with Bridget here momentarily. I'm going to be connecting with her here in just a moment. We're going to talk a little through the latest of what we know and bring you some additional context. I know we spoke to a few residents earlier in this live stream. We'll recap some of that, but right now the active scene and the latest information that we want you to know is that the community of Tara Glen Drive and McDonough Road, they are still under a shelter in place. They are under a shelter in place now more than ever, while officials and police and local law enforcement do respond to the area towards your right of Home Depot, the Walden Landing apartment homes, and Madison Heights apartments. Now, as we work to connect with Bridget, I did want to emphasize a point here. We are talking about the vicinity of these 3 locations, not that there is were shots fired or gunfire heard from those specific places, but we are talking about the individual places here. So I'm going to bring that map up here momentarily. There we go. So you can see closer to Tara Glen Drive in the vicinity of the Home Depot, as well as those 2 apartments, Walden Landing apartments and Madison Heights apartments. We're talking about the vicinity of these locations. So they have mapped out those 3 spots as the overall area where those gunfire shots were heard from and where shots were confirmed to be fired from. Not necessarily that those are that there's an active scene there at those specific locations, but more so that it happened within the vicinity of these 3 places. Now you can see how close that is to Tara Glen Drive, very much an active situation, prompting that shelter-in-place order to be emphasized. Clayton County is saying, continue to shelter in place. This is far from over over at this time with this latest development. Now they are sending more units to this area to respond to those shots fired. We are going to be following any updates that we hear from officials, as well as this scene right here on Tara Glen Drive, where you can see several investigators still on scene, still investigating this area that essentially has become the starting point of a very much developing story that we are going to continue to follow into the 12th hour. Hey. All right, and I do have our reporter on the ground, Bridget Spencer. She was able to connect with us. Let's get straight out to Tara Glen Drive. We have heard recently that gunshots were heard in the vicinity of this area, a little outside of the neighborhood. What can you tell us, Bridget?
Yeah, we do know a shelter in place was issued, and we have just learned, like you said, that there were some gunshots heard. This is maybe about 5 or 6 minutes down the road in Lovejoy, Georgia. I'm going to show you where we are right now. This is Tara Glen Boulevard. This is where it all started. If you can see that TV dish over there, we're told by a neighbor that that's where police have been going in and out, so that is the house more than likely. Now, those gunshots you were referring to, that was in Walden Landing Apartments, Madison Heights apartment complex, and near the Home Depot in Lovejoy, Georgia. So that is why that shelter in place is being issued. It seems like it's still a dangerous situation and pretty dangerous for anybody to really be outside in this area at this hour.
Absolutely, and I know you were speaking to some residents, a woman who had to remain in her car for a long period of time, and another neighbor who was more out of the way of this investigation. What have they been telling you?
Yeah, we talked to a couple of people. They've been sitting in their cars all night. One woman said she had to sleep in her car, and she called into work because she didn't really get adequate sleep. And the reason she was out here was because this road here has been blocked off pretty much all night. She has not been able to get home. So it's been pretty frustrating for some neighbors that we've been talking to.
Now, I did see some law enforcement units move out of the area while we were streaming out this live video you've been bringing us. We do understand there are still investigators on the ground?
Yes, as a matter of fact, right here, you can see this vehicle. This is the Clayton County Bomb Squad. They have been on scene since about 7 or 8 this morning. They haven't really moved. So I think what's happening is police are kind of expanding the perimeter. So we have some police probably on foot searching for this suspect right now who is considered armed and dangerous.
All right, Bridget, I really appreciate your time. I know you'll be providing us updates, sending that back to the newsroom. Stay safe out there. I know this is a very active investigation.
Thank you.
And once again, I do want to bring this picture back. This is the man that local law enforcement are searching for. His name is Jeremiah Rose. He is 41 years old. He is currently on foot. He has been considered armed and dangerous. That's the language being used by Clayton County Police. They said, do not approach this individual. If you see him, if you or a loved one are in that area, do not approach this man. What you want to do is call 911, let Clayton County Police and other local law enforcement know where you are and what you witnessed if you believe you've spotted this individual. Now, I do want to give you some additional context to the latest on what we learned. This all began yesterday around 4:00 p.m. when Clayton County Police responded to a mental crisis. They said they were performing a welfare check, and that since escalated to a standoff, prompting SWAT to be called to the scene. As you saw, the bomb squad still remaining on scene. Bridget indicating that they have been there since about 7 o'clock this morning. Now, back to Jeremiah Rose, I want to give you some additional context about this search for Rose. Now, Clayton County Police have told us that this is a pursuit involving an out-of-state warrant and possible guns that were found in the residence. Now, investigators have learned with responding to that welfare check that Rose had several guns and a long gun inside the residence. That's really what solidified this standoff. When they asked him to come out several times and he refused to do so, that's what then prompted SWAT to be called to the scene and an hours-long standoff to take place. Since then, we have learned that Jeremiah Rose has fled on foot. He is on the run, and that is what Clayton County Police, several other members of law enforcement who have been called to assist in this investigation, that is who they are searching for at this time. Now, Rose does have a warrant for failure to appear for aggravated assault with a weapon out of Louisiana. He is still considered armed and dangerous at this time as this search continues on. And we did recently learn, I'm going to pull up this map back here, that there were gunshots heard, gunshots that rang out in the vicinity of the Home Depot, Walden Landing apartment homes and Madison Heights apartments. And you heard from Bridget just there, saying, investigators have very likely expanded their search to that area as they believe this is possibly connected. Alrighty, we're going to go through a little bit of the latest updates on what we know as this standoff and ongoing investigation has recently developed. Now, I want to take you through the very beginning. We are expecting to have another visual for you here shortly from our own Atlanta News First chopper feed. I will be pulling that up for you as soon as we do obtain that visual, but let's talk a little bit about what we currently know. So this all started with Clayton County Police responding to Tara Lynn Drive and McDonough Road at 4:04 p.m. yesterday. Now we're talking about several hours later, it almost being 11 o'clock. That standoff began around 11 when we first brought it to you here on Atlanta News First. That is when SWAT was called to the scene. You saw that bomb squad that still remains here this morning called to the scene for Jeremiah Rose. Now I'm going to pull up a picture of him, the one I've been showing you throughout this live stream, and that is important that we do that because we want to make sure that you know this is the person that Clayton County Police and local law enforcement are actively searching for. This is the person at the center of that standoff that I was just talking about, and the one that Clayton County Police, other members of law enforcement are working to find so that they can lift an emergency shelter in place that remains in effect for Tara Glenn Drive and now nearby vicinities as the search for him has expanded. Now, some context for you. Clayton County Police did issue that emergency shelter in place originally for the neighborhood of Tara Glenn Drive, for the surrounding area and citizens. That's since expanded after shots were fired in the vicinity of that Home Depot I was showing you a map of in Lovejoy. Now here's that map for you. I'm going to bring it up here. That pin that you're seeing, the red pin, that's Tara Glenn Drive and McDonough Road near where this investigation first started. If you look further to your right, and if you can see my mouse here, this is a simple Google Maps that I'm showing you right here. In the vicinity of Home Depot, the Walden Landing apartment homes, and Madison Heights apartments. That is where gunfire was heard from. Now, I want to make something clear. This does not indicate that there were shots fired at these three locations. It's more that gunfire was heard from the vicinity of these three locations. So the two apartment homes and the Home Depot. That area specifically has been the new spot in the search for Jeremiah Rose. Now, Clayton County Police do tell us that that gunfire they heard is possibly connected to the original standoff that we first brought to you. They are working to investigate that area a little closer, and we will bring you updates regarding that gunfire that was heard and whether this is connected to the search for Jeremiah Rose. Now, some context about Jeremiah Rose I'm going to pull up here in just a moment. He's 41 years old. He's actually wanted for a warrant out of Louisiana for failure to appear charges. Now, that is not connected to this particular incident. It is a reason that they are searching for him, but the reason they consider him armed and dangerous specifically is because Clayton County Police have told us that when officers were responding to the residents and confronted Jeremiah Rose, they said that he apparently had several guns and a long gun that he had on him, so that is what prompted SWAT to respond to the situation. Now, they said that they attempted to get him out of the residence. That was unsuccessful, and he has since fled on foot. So now this standoff evolving into a search with gunshots that were possibly fired in the vicinity of this location, more to your right along the Home Depot, Walden Landing apartment homes, and Madison Heights apartments. And regarding some of those neighbors, I mean, I've been checking your comments. I've been reading through every single one of them, responding to some of you in there. Some of you have said you have loved ones and family members that live in the vicinity of Tara Glenn Drive. We want to make sure that we get you the latest information regarding that shelter in place so that you can either communicate it to them or let them know that we are live streaming and looking out for those updates. As soon as we hear anything regarding Jeremiah Rose, regarding that emergency shelter in place that continues to be in effect, we will let you know right here. And there you see a shot of our Atlanta News First chopper, bringing you a live picture from above of this very active and ongoing situation. You can see several investigators still on scene, Clayton County police vehicles, as well as other members of local law enforcement. And I believe that might be a police robot of some sort, just helping them canvass the area. Now, we have been told to keep a safe distance away just as they search for the suspect who has now been identified as Jeremiah Rose. This is as close of a visual as we can get you. Of course, the closest one is from the ground here from our reporter, but that is a little aerial visual showing you, similar to my mapping earlier, the residential area that we are looking at here and the amount of homes that are now under a shelter-in-place order. And we did just lose that visual there. Again, we were able to get a brief aerial shot for you, just showing you a closer look at how investigators are. Oh, I believe we have that shot back. Let's get you back to it. Now, we are keeping a safe distance here as this investigation continues, but those vehicles that you're looking at down below, those are law enforcement vehicles, investigators still in the area conducting this active investigation while the shelter in place remains. And you can see from the ground here more police vehicles, but that aerial shot, I want to keep that up for you, really paints a picture of just how many local law enforcement officials, how much Clayton County Police is responding to this scene, and just how active the investigation is. Now, that search for Jeremiah Rose, who has been named as the suspect in this active investigation, he is still, from what we've last been told, out in the community. He has not been apprehended at this time. That is what Clayton County Police indicated is their top priority, and they've stated, you know, from what we've been talking with Bridget about, is that shelter in place is not going to be lifted until they have deemed this safe to lift, safe to bring that back. And you can see here the bomb squad vehicle. That's where Atlanta News First is. You can see our vehicle. They're off to the corner. Bomb squad still on the scene, as well as SWAT. We saw earlier from the shot several investigators who are going to continue to remain on this premise until this investigation is fully conducted. And we are going to take you back to our shot from the ground, showing you the vicinity of Tara Glen Drive and McDonough Road. This is where the standoff first began at the residence along this road here. We have since learned the suspect, Jeremiah Rose, has fled on foot. That is who Clayton County Police are actively searching for. Now, several other members of law enforcement have been called to assist. We know that SWAT responded to the scene, as well as you can see the bomb squad still on the premise as the investigation. But let's talk a little bit about that Atlanta News First chopper feed, showing you just how much of the area that they are canvassing in search for this suspect, Jeremiah Rose. Again, if you do see this individual, I'm going to pull the photo back up here. I know I've been showing it time and time again, but that really has become the focus of this investigation. If you see him, do not approach him. What Clayton County Police are asking is that if you live in this area or in the neighborhood, shelter in place. But if you do witness him, call 911, contact local law enforcement, Clayton County Police specifically. They are searching for this man.
News right now at 9:30. We just got new information on that standoff in Clayton County that's been going on all night long.
Let's get it right out to Atlanta News First's Bridget Spencer with what she's learned. Bridget, you're live on the scene. What are you learning?
Yeah, well, shelter in place has just been issued. They're saying the suspect that they've been trying to get to come out all this time is armed and dangerous and on foot. I'm going to show you what it's looking like over here. This is the Clayton County Bomb Squad vehicle. They have been out here since about 7 o'clock this morning. They deployed some sort of robot earlier that we saw. We weren't sure if that was used to go inside of the home, but this is Terra Glen Boulevard. This is what it's looking like. Police won't let us get much beyond this point, but just to recap, this all started at about 11 o'clock last night, and it's been going on for hours and hours. SWAT teams from both Clayton County Police Department as well as the Clayton County Sheriff's Office have been both working on this all night. And it's, of course, also been a tough morning for neighbors who live around here. Some were told to leave their homes early this morning. We spoke to a woman who had to sleep in her car. She couldn't even get home. So a lot of people are really just frustrated that we're hearing from. And now that we've learned that the suspect is armed and dangerous and running, apparently on foot. So they're trying to keep everybody safe at this point. This is still a very fluid situation. Of course, we're going to be checking in with police and
For those of you just joining us, I wanted to recap the latest on this active and developing story. This is live picture that we're bringing you off of our Atlanta News First camera. This is from our reporter, Bridget Spencer. She's been on the ground covering this story since this morning, but this is a standoff that has been going on since yesterday at 4:04 p.m. Clayton County Police responded to Tara Glenn Drive and McDonough Road. This is where the beginning of this standoff took place. They said they responded for a welfare check of someone possibly experiencing a mental crisis. That escalated when officers arrived and they saw who they say this individual, Jeremiah Rose, allegedly with a gun. And they said that they asked Rose to come out of the home. They attempted to bring him out of his residence. That was unsuccessful. And that is when SWAT was called to the scene to assist. Several other units were called and a standoff took place. Now, since then, we have learned that Jeremiah Rose has fled on foot. He is on the run, and that has prompted a shelter in place from Clayton County Police. They issued it originally for Tara Glenn Drive and McDonough Road and surrounding neighborhoods. This is a heavily residential area, just from what you can see off of this live picture here. But that changed when we did bring you earlier, about an hour ago, that we heard gunfire confirmed from Clayton County Police. Gunfire heard from the areas of Walden Landing apartment, Madison Heights apartment, and the Home Depot that is in Lovejoy. Now, I wanted to make something clear. This does not mean that those gunfire shots were heard at those three locations independently. That just means that they were heard in the vicinity. Now, the two of those apartments, the Walden Landing apartments and Madison Heights apartments, as well as that Home Depot, they are within close range of each other. So they said approximately this is where they heard the gunshots. They do believe that those gunshots are connected to this active and ongoing search for Jeremiah Rose. So we took you also to our Atlanta News First chopper feed and showed you some of the investigators that were on scene. A lot of those vehicles belonging to Clayton County Police and a robot that was assisting with the search. Now, we did hear from a reporter on the ground, Bridget Spencer, that even one woman who was driving through the area during that shelter in place, and that is when she was told she would have to remain in her vehicle, and she ended up sleeping in her vehicle as this continued. Now, it is about to be 12 p.m. We are going to bring you back out to Bridget, get any updates on what we hear at the top of the hour from her, as well as continue to update you on any information that we heard. Now, I want to emphasize how critical a time like this is for individuals, especially living in that area, for residents of that area. You're talking about an emergency shelter in place that is impacting real people living in that community while the search for Rose remains underway. So we do want to continue to bring you these updates. We're going to stay on until we hear that that shelter in place has possibly been lifted, and for as long as possible, so that if you are impacted or if you have a loved one that has possibly been impacted, that they know when it is safe for them to come back outside and resume their day. Right now, what we do want to tell you for those that are affected by this is that you want to remain indoors and remember that Jeremiah Rose has been named as armed and dangerous. This is not an individual that you want to approach. So if you do witness him in this area, possibly what you want to do is call 911, let Clayton County Police know that you spotted this individual, and then let investigators respond.
news right now at 9:30. We just got new information on that standoff in Clayton County that's been going on all night long.
Let's get it right out to Atlanta News First's Bridget Spencer with what she's learned. Bridget, you're live on the scene. What are you learning?
Yeah, well, shelter in place has just been issued. They're saying the suspect that they've been trying to get to come out all this time is armed and dangerous and on foot. I'm going to show you what it's looking like over here. This is the Clayton County Bomb Squad vehicle. They have been out here since about 7 o'clock this morning. They deployed some sort of robot earlier that we saw. We weren't sure if that was used to go inside of the home, but this is Terra Glen Boulevard. This is what it's looking like. Police won't let us get much beyond this point, but just to recap, this all started at about 11 o'clock last night, and it's been going on for hours and hours. SWAT teams from both Clayton County Police Department as well as the Clayton County Sheriff's Office have been both working on this all night. And it's, of course, also been a tough morning for neighbors who live around here. Some were told to leave their homes early this morning. We spoke to a woman who had to sleep in her car. She couldn't even get home. So a lot of people are really just frustrated that we're hearing from. And now that we've learned that the suspect is armed and dangerous and running, apparently on foot. So they're trying to keep everybody safe at this point. This is still a very fluid situation. Of course, we're going to be checking in with police and bringing you the latest as we get it. For now, we're live in Hampton. Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
Now, for those of you still with us, I did want to take this time to let you know we'll be reconnecting here with Bridget at the top of the hour at 12 in about 8 minutes. Check in to see if we have any new updates. The latest on what we heard from Clayton County Police is that they are adamant about letting neighbors know in this particular area that the shelter in place is very much ongoing. They are still searching for Jeremiah Rose at this time, who has been confirmed to have ran away from the residence. He's fled on foot. Clayton County Police are searching for him right now at this time, and they have labeled him as armed and dangerous. So if you see him, we are going to keep this photo up while the search is still active. If you see this individual, Jeremiah Rose, 41 years old, do not approach him. He is considered armed and dangerous. What you're going to want to do is call Clayton County Police. We are going to connect with our Bridget Spencer. She's our reporter on the ground. She's been there all morning long, and then even before then, we had our crews investigating this, trying to get you confirmation and word more about this standoff that began at 11 o'clock. Officers actually responding at 4 p.m. to this scene as a welfare check, responding to a mental health crisis that has since transpired to a standoff and now a police chase. So we are going to be bringing you that update, any other developments that we learn regarding this ongoing search for Jeremiah Rose at the top of the hour at 12 o'clock.
starts now.
A shelter in place remains in Clayton County after a man considered armed and dangerous is now on the run after a standoff that lasted for hours.
And the sunshine warming us nicely today. I'll let you know where temperatures top out this afternoon.
And if you are traveling for Thanksgiving, what you can expect in the next few days as more people head to the airport and hit the road. Right now, people in a Clayton County neighborhood are locked in their homes, bracing for what's next after police issue a shelter-in-place order.
Yeah, Clayton County police say an overnight SWAT standoff led to this point. Now the suspect is on the loose in that area. Atlanta News First's Bridget Spencer has been following this breaking news all morning for us. She's live in Hampton at the scene. Bridget, what can you tell us?
Yeah, guys, this has been a developing story all morning. They just opened Terra Glen Drive right here in Hampton. If you can see right here, this is where some of the cops are still posted right now. The home is just over this way. Now, they have issued that shelter in place. They are encouraging all residents to stay inside because we're told the suspect is armed and dangerous, and they're still looking for him right now. And in fact, they say they just heard gunshots about 5 minutes away from here. Now, just to recap everything, police were called to a home on Terra Glen Drive on Sunday. This started yesterday around 4 o'clock in the evening for a welfare check. The caller said Jeremiah Rose, 41-year-old Jeremiah Rose, was experiencing a mental health crisis. Officers were told he had several guns inside the home. Shortly after the shelter in place was issued, gunshots were heard at the or near the Walden Landing, Madison Heights apartment complexes, as well as the Home Depot in Lovejoy. Now, this is just minutes away. We did speak to a neighbor as well who said she was sitting out here all night and had to sleep in a car because she could not get back inside of her home. Now, we're told Rose's warrants were out of Louisiana for failure to appear. And in fact, we just got word just moments ago that they were able to get him into custody. So this is just a very fluid situation. Of course, Atlanta News First will be out here and we'll be bringing you the latest updates as we get them. Reporting live in Hampton, Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
Wow, Bridget, yeah, certainly a lot going on there.
I wanted to take you out to that broadcast. We are right now in our news hour at 12 o'clock, but we just learned in that moment that Jeremiah Rose has been taken into custody. This has now become an officer-involved shooting investigation. We are going to continue to monitor these developments and get additional context to that. Now, when we're talking about an officer-involved shooting, that could mean either that an officer fired or that an officer was shot at. We are still working to confirm the details surrounding that, but what I can tell you confirmed is that Jeremiah Rose has been taken into custody in connection to this ongoing standoff situation that we've been bringing you all morning long and even last night when we first heard these reports. Now, I'm going to be checking in with my team here. We do still have Bridget out at this now very active scene. That shelter-in-place order remains in effect. We have not heard at this time from Clayton County official that it's been lifted. I'm going to check in with my team and see if that has changed now that he is in custody. But we are going to remain for the time being and let you know that this shelter-in-place order has not officially been lifted. Jeremiah Rose has been taken into custody. We'll be right back. All right, I was just able to touch base with our reporters and the rest of our Atlanta News First team, who is actively working on confirming the details that we've just learned and brought to you. So we do now know that Jeremiah Rose, the suspect in this standoff, this hours-long standoff with Clayton County Police, has been taken into custody. He was found and brought in. Now, we do know at this time that shelter-in-place order remains in effect until we get official word from Clayton County Police that it has been lifted. So at this time, if you're a resident of the area watching this, maybe you know someone, a family member or loved one who is under this shelter in place, let them know to continue doing that until they hear from these investigators and officials that that shelter in place has been lifted. We are going to continue to monitor that situation, but what I can say right now, that suspect identified as Jeremiah Rose, he has been taken into custody by Clayton County Police. We do expect them to remain on scene conducting this investigation, but as far as that shelter-in-place order, we are going to continue to monitor that and put those updates out for you. The easiest way, I know a lot of you have been on this stream with me for the past 2 hours, and I appreciate that. The easiest way to stay up to date on a developing story like this is through our Atlanta News First app. It is free. You can select if you only want to hear breaking news alerts like these and major updates. You can select when you download it the breaking news and notifications box that will let you know only about the breaking news stories that you want to hear about and major developments like these, especially if this is something that impacts your community. We want to make sure you stay in the know. We are going to go ahead and continue to monitor the situation on the app on atlantanewsfirst.com and bring you those updates there. If we do hear those major developments, we will jump back on this live stream and chat a bit more and bring you up to speed on the latest. But right now we can confirm that suspect, Jeremiah Rose, has been taken into custody.